More than a dozen states across the country, both red and blue, are open to changing their redistricting process. California plans to hold a special election this November to vote on a new map to nullify Texas. And they're not the only blue state scrambling, but there's not much room for them to maneuver, as they have already chopped up the states they're targeting, leaving Republicans with a potential 20-seat redistricting advantage. Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey says she has no choice but to join in on the fight. But Democrats have already boxed out Republicans in the state, and there's no room left to gerrymander. Joining us now for our big close-up tonight is RNC Chairman Michael Whatley. He is also running for the open U.S. Senate seat in North Carolina. Chairman, so good to see you. What impact could these new maps have on the midterms?
I think it's going to be a minimal impact. Look, at the end of the day, we are going to have an election that is going to be about President Trump's success, about his agenda, about the American First agenda. And the president is delivering every single day, which is why we're going to be going into the election with a strong economy, a secure southern border, and a standing in the world where we are respected again. Ultimately, that is going to be the biggest set of factors. So we're actually in a fine position as far as the redistricting fights that are coming up.
You know, Chairman Whatley, the Democrats are doing the cry wolf game. They're saying all of this. And to be fair, gerrymandering is a part of the system. Whether you like it or don't like it, it's there. And the Republicans are playing hardball. But the best way to deliver those results is to something that you just said, deliver the wins for the people. President Trump moved the needle with blacks, with Latinos, Asians, with demographics that typically weren't leaning Republican. And that is an advantage in the blue states. I think that's what the Democrats really fear. What do you say?
I completely agree. The fact is that President Trump got sizable shifts among every one of those demographics because he was listening to the issues that they care about and putting solutions on the table. What every single demographic group that we polled during the last election cycle cared about was the economy. We need policies that are going to create jobs, that are going to raise wages, that are going to allow families to be able to buy a home and raise their family. That's exactly what we're fighting over here. Look, the Democrats have already gerrymandered all of their different states. And so, you know, for them to cry wolf, as you say, over this fight is really, truly crocodile tears. And we're going to go win on the merits because President Trump is leading this country forward.
Chairman Whatley, you want to shift gears a little bit because you've launched a campaign for North Carolina's open Senate seat. President Trump is throwing his full support behind you and praised your leadership as RNC chair, leading your top primary opponent to drop out. You'll likely be facing off in the general election against former Governor Roy Cooper in what is gearing up to be a very expensive race. And over at the RNC, Treasurer Joe Gruters has been endorsed by the president to be your successor. Chairman, I want to talk about the first Emerson poll that came out. Your big problem, name ID. Former Governor Roy Cooper, he's ahead of you in the poll, primarily because people know who he is. 66% are unsure or not familiar with you yet. So how do you cross that hurdle? What do you do about it? What's your plan?
Well, I think we're going to go out and talk to every community and every family across the state, and we're going to talk about my agenda, which is about creating jobs, which is about making sure we have an economy that works for every family and every community. It's about making sure that we have trade policies that are going to help every farm and every manufacturer in North Carolina, and that we are going to have policies that are going to ensure that our soldiers are getting what they need to protect, you know, our interests and our allies around the world.
Oh, Tom Schiller, I got a question for you, Chairman Whatley. What we heard from the Democrats, I wrote down a couple of quotes from our video montage there. If you're going to go nuclear, so am I. The other quote, if you are going to launch a missile at me, I'm going to launch a missile at you. So like you said, the Democrats have already done their gerrymandering. Now we're going to do it. Is this going to be the future? Are we going to have basically, you know, this kind of permanent gerrymandering fight? And if so, is that an okay thing, that it's kind of permanent war?
Well, I think it always has been permanent. This is a fight that has been ongoing for decades. You know, in North Carolina, back when I was a legal law clerk in the federal courts here back in the late 90s. We were fighting over gerrymandering here that the Democrats were doing. There has always been gerrymandering by the Democrats. The Republicans have started to engage on that to some degree here. But this is a fight that has always been ongoing. We've just never really had the attention that's been paid to it on this particular cycle. And look, every time a Republican state draws a new map, the Democrat lawyers run out there and they file lawsuits against it. So, it is not surprising that they're going to go down the legal roads to try and stop what Texas is doing here.
RNC Chairman Michael Whatley, we really appreciate you joining us tonight. Good to see you.
Great to see you guys.
Thank you. Okay, Tom, so let's just pick up right there where the chairman left off. We're probably going to see more of this, right? And I guess the question is, like, how prepared are Americans for this to continue on and on and on?
Yeah, well, listen, I love it, and I love his attitude, and some of the other Republicans we've been hearing saying, look, we want those red seats because this is a red state, and we're going to get these red districts. We looked at that Massachusetts map. That's my home state. I happen to know that there are towns where you can't see anything but Trump signs and American flags in Massachusetts, but there's no red districts in Massachusetts because they have been gerrymandered out. That's an entirely blue map. That's the way Democrats have done it. They are ready for a street fight, and Republicans never were. And they just, we'll leave it up to the courts and everything else. They're not rolling over anymore. This is the MAGA era.
And David, when it comes to the midterms, he brought up a good point. He said it's going to be about the issues, right?
Yeah. The movement in voters in these states, which is what I went back to, when you look at the, Massachusetts, to your point, where the voters are, this is where the Republicans keep going. You have the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. By the time you get to the midterms, now that it's law, you will begin to see effects from that. You have cuts, regulatory cuts, revenue. You have unleashing American energy dominance. You see the trends, the real trends in jobs that are coming online. You see where the country's going and why it's going there. You run with that because to the people who have less, and this is a key demographic for Trump, whether you're Latino, black, white, young, old, the people who have less will have more money in their pockets, paying less taxes. Look at even things like no tax on tips. Who does that matter to? Those are the people you go and you appeal to, especially in these blue states, and you keep moving them down the line for Republicans. That's what Democrats are afraid of. They have got to break the trend that's been going on with Donald Trump.
And Lisa, and something we covered in the last hour, and David really kind of illuminated so much about the census and what we gather from it, what we gain. And I think Americans are at this point where they're actually learning exactly what comes from the census in our day-to-day lives. And the president actually contributed to that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the census is used for apportionment in Congress, and then it's also used for electoral college votes, which is a big deal because it impacts the balance of power in Congress, and then impacts the balance of the presidency, who wins the presidency and which states have the power to propel said president to the presidency. So it's very important. And, look, non-citizens have always been counted in the census, but we've also seen this massive influx of illegal immigrants, particularly during the 4 years of Joe Biden. And then you've had Democrats just say outright the reason why we've had that, like Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, who said, I need more migrants for redistricting purposes. So I think if you're an American citizen who wants to be put first, as we saw with this past election, that, Americans do want to be put first. You don't want that, right? You don't want illegal immigrants coming into the United States, taking your benefits, and then also changing the balance of power potentially to the benefit of Democrats. So I do think this matters. I do think at the very least, a question about citizenship should be included in the census. It has in the past, and I think that should resurface. And then on the redistricting front, I just want to say real quickly that Governor Gavin Newsom is actually to blame. Governor Gavin Newsom's poor governance in California has given the justification to Texas to do a mid-decade redistricting because his poor governance has driven millions of people, or so many people to states like Texas fleeing California. So it's actually kind of funny that, he really is to blame for a lot of this.
And I want to follow up on the question that you asked the chairman about his Senate race.
Oh,
here.
yeah.
Because you're right. Like, the polling right now looks like an uphill climb for him at this point. But he does sound optimistic.
Well, 6 points actually is really not insurmountable at all, particularly at this point. I mean, look, they haven't even gone through the primaries. They both still need to win their party's nomination. So that really is not insurmountable. And look, not having a high name ID can work to your benefit to some degree, right? Especially if you define yourself early, but you need a lot of money to do that. However, he demonstrated he can earn that money when he was RNC chairman, and he was very savvy in that position. But people are familiar with former Governor Roy Cooper, so you got to figure out how can you drive down his approval rating with someone who the state already knows. So, some challenges, potential blessings in that, lower name ID. So we'll see. But he's politically adept and savvy, so he could do it. Yeah.
So, Lisa, here's a question in the form for you to build on this. One thing that Chairman Whatley has in his corner, you don't have name ID the way a Cooper does, to be true, but he has an infrastructure, having been the former chair of the North Carolina Republicans. That means the county committees and these other committees are your street soldiers to go out there and get to the voters, back to those issues, how you run a boots-on-the-ground campaign while you're building name ID. And with President Trump's endorsement, plus an infrastructure, that sounds like the possibility of having a real boots on the ground. You need your advocates there every day where you're not.
Yeah, and I'll just say I worked in politics for almost a decade before doing this. I worked at the NRCC as a vice president of a polling firm, so I've worked in this. But you're right. And then also as the RNC chairman, look, Republicans did a great job in the 2024 election in getting early voters to turn out. And that was one of the key differences this election cycle, especially after, experiencing 2020 when you had all the mail-in ballots and the whole, it appended the whole system. And so Chairman Whatley was really, greatly responsible for that. So he's someone who understands how to win elections, understands the political dynamics in the states, as you said, already has a political apparatus behind him, and then also has President Trump's endorsement in a state that he won, North Carolina. So a lot of things working towards him, to your point.
Right. And the president has not hit the campaign trail just yet for the.
And I'm sure he will for him.
We will be watching, yes.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.